Chapter 21. Before I have a chance to react, Joachim ducks below my blade and rolls away. His movement is fast and strikingly precise, and his hands collect the wooden spear from the ground like a falcon collecting prey. With a swift motion, he thrusts his weapon and I counter, sidestepping his attack. Leaping through the air, he lands on a flat rock next to the fire, pointing his deadly needle at me with malice. "Bastard! You won't have me this time," he says. "Begone!" Joachim's eyes are bloodshot with spider veins spreading from the dark gray of his irises. His shirt is torn in the front of his body, and there are stains. Red? Brown? The yellow wash of firelight makes it impossible to discern. I merely take a breath, and he throws himself at me again, attempting to run his spear through my heart. Catching the shaft of his weapon with the angle of the bawaka, I send him between two stalagmites as his face strikes the side of the rock. Blood smears across its surface as he regresses into the shadows, his voice crackling. I want to kill him right here, right now, but can't. Dorian might be alive and I need answers. I glance around the glowing cave, searching, but Joachim leaps from the shadows, bracing his spear across his chest with both hands, using the weight of his frail-looking body. Distraction has cost me my guard. I can do nothing but collapse onto my back with Joachim's face next to mine. Blood from the gash on his face leaks onto my neck, dripping down the chest guard of my proofing. Teeth clenched tightly, he seethes at the mouth, pushing with all his might, pinning me closer to the ground. His eyes dilate. "You are foul! Die! Die the death you deserve!" Rancid blood speckles my face, engulfing me in horrid stench, reminding me of the horrible animals that passed through Joachim's mouth. Insanity has taken Joachim. His eyes bear down on me. His knuckles are white as he grips his weapon. I must do something fast, or his disregard for life might be rewarded with the spilling of his own blood. I kick out the inside of his leg. His knee drops to the floor, and I rip upward with the bawaka, splitting the spear in half. His retaliation is swift. Using one of the broken pieces, Joachim thrusts down over and over with the shortened shaft, using it like a stake to pierce my heart. "You think you're the only one who knows how to do it?" screams Joachim. Grabbing my hair, he slams my head against the hard ground. Flashes of light splash across my vision. Joachim brings the stake down again and misses my heart, lodging the wood between the chest and shoulder piece. I feel his determination to push it through the armor, but no wood can penetrate the steel beneath the leather. His face wrinkles up as he stands and begins pounding on my chest like a wild beast. Grabbing his leg, I twist it, causing him to buckle from me, landing on his side. I roll over and turn about to face him, and again he comes toward me with both shafts of severed spear. His eyes seem to bulge from his head as he approaches, leaping back and forth with amazing speed. It is hard to tell which side he will strike from as he closes in. I throw the bawaka to counter the approach, but he simply leaps over the spinning blade. I block his low strike to my side, gripping his wrist and using his momentum to force his body down, but he quickly follows with an overhead strike, aimed for my neck. But I am faster. I strike the underside of his forearm with the back of mine, forcing him to release his weapon, and with a countering motion, bend at the waist, pulling his arm and send him flailing over me. I catch the bawaka on its return trip and turn to face Joachim. On hands and knees, Joachim stares at me like a wild cat stalking its prey, placing one hand beside the next, turning his body slightly with each step. He bares his teeth at me like an animal, and I hear the faint sound of growling. "Where's my son?" I shout in frustration. Joachim says nothing as he moves closer. "My son, Joachim! Where is he?" My hopes for Dorian's well-being are fading fast. Joachim sinks lower to the ground. "Damn you!" Joachim leaps. The bawaka leaves my hand as it reaches Joachim, and he turns enough to avoid my aiming for his neck, but not enough for his torso. The spinning blade catches the side of his stomach, tearing the stained shirt from his body, whirling his blood in all directions. Jacques falls to the ground, screaming as the Bawaka comes to a halt, tangling in the soiled shirt beyond his reach and mine. I watch him clutch his steaming wound, screaming like a tortured victim. I stand over Jacques, holding my silver stake at his neck, preventing his chance to do anything more. "What have you done with Dorian?" I say, bringing Jacques' chin up with the point of the stake. I look into his eyes. The red veins are gone. Jacques shudders at the sight of me, as if seeing me for the first time. Scrambling, he backs against a rock, never taking his eyes off me. "Jacques," I say, moving closer to him. He cries out in horror. "No! Please, don't kill me!" He grabs at his arms, rubbing them, scratching them until blood spurts out. His hands go to his neck, scratching there too, scraping at his pale purplish skin. Through the wiry hair falling around his shoulders, I cannot see what torments him. Every time I reach for him, he cowers away like a helpless animal. "I am cold," he says. I hear his teeth chattering, his lips, cracked and dry, tremble after every word, even as he licks them. If I had water to give him, I wouldn't. He deserves to suffer. "Jacques," I start again slowly, fearing I might set him back into hysteria. "Where is Dorian?" This time, for some reason, the name triggers something inside him. His eyes widen in response, holding up his fingers, pointing at nothing in particular. Dorian is gone! They took him, Lord Wolfgang! They took him!" he whimpers. He leans forward, slipping to his knees, sobbing on the floor like a demented child. I grab at him and shake him violently. "Worm! You are lying!" Moving the silver stake to his neck, I press, breaking the surface of his skin. A thin stream of blood trickles down, passing along his spidery veins. "Lie again, and it will be your last word." No, I swear it! I swear it! I do not lie!" His words are lost in the collection of spit in his mouth. Saliva seeps from both corners. "You destroyed everything," I say, shaking him. "You took Dorian, you killed Diana, and burned my home. Why?" I shout, shaking him harder. "No, Lord Wolfgang, please! I would never! You must believe me!" he says, pleading for sanctuary. Now he is the one holding my arms. I see his composure returning. For a moment I feel he is telling the truth, but something doesn't feel right. He's not staring into my eyes, but at my neck, captivated for some reason. With every beat of my heart, my neck pulses and his eyes twitch. Leaning forward, I grab Jacques' hair and pull it aside. The suddenness makes him flinch. Resisting within the depression of his neck lie 2 festering puncture marks. "You bastard," I say, standing up, raising the silver stake to his face. The blood in my body rushes to my head. I will torture him first, then kill him. Jacques' hand goes to his neck. "Oh God, no!" He falls forward into the fetal position, grabbing at his throat again and again, writhing on the floor as if poisoned. I watch Jacques in disgust, wanting to drive the cold silver stake through his bleak heart. Jacques has turned, and there's no doubt the same has happened for Dorian. Has it come to this? I try to shun the thought of having to kill my own son as I bring the silver stake to Jacques' forehead. "This wasn't my doing. You must believe me, please! I would never!" "You've destroyed everything," I say. "Everything I loved!" "You have to believe me, please," Jacques says, holding his hands out as if they would protect him. "They took us from Wolfgang Manor and brought us here to this wretched place. It was them. You must believe me." I pause. "They knew you would come here." "They?" I bring my face to meet Jacques'. "Who?" I etch a line in Jacques' face. Blood trails from the edge of his eye to the tip of his chin. "The Carnal Risi." The name echoes in my head like a ripple of water, remembering what Rule said before he died. There had been a man he'd seen, not a boy, and the man was with the Carnal Risi. I lower the stake to Joachim's chest, pricking it with the point. You are one of them. Joachim's eyes open wide. He shakes his head violently. Amat, I swear it! He grabs my forearm. They abducted us, took us and separated us here. They beat us like slaves. I begged for food and they laughed. I remembered one of them saying to give me water or I'll die, so the others finally agreed. Joachim's breath is fast between his words. But when I drank the water, something was wrong. It tasted awful, horrible, and crude. It was the last thing I remember until some time ago. I woke next to the river, he says, pointing over his head. I stare at Joachim for a moment. There is fear in his eyes. Despite his words, I never take the stake away from his chest. From that point on, I was alone and cold, left with nothing. Dorian and the Carnal Risi were gone. Things came for me in the dark. Monsters. Atrocities. I could barely defend myself. After making a weapon and finding kindling for fire, I sought food. The pains in my stomach were too much to bear. They were unlike anything I've ever felt. He clenches at his stomach. The meat is like ash in my mouth, glass in my throat. The juice is gone. The more I cook it, the worse it tastes. And the fire. Joachim turns his eyes away as if in reverie. A never-ending cold. No matter how close I come to it, its warmth eludes me. His symptoms are evident to me now. He is a vampire. But despite his plea for humanity, I spare him none. By choice or not, he was with the Carnal Risi and is now a part of them. I grab him by the shoulders and lift him to his feet. The look on his face is one of sheer horror. I'm not going to kill you. His expression changes at the sound of my words. Then you believe me, Joachim says, managing to stand on his own. I pull back, twirling the stake in my hand, and brace my arm across his chest to slam him against a rock, then point the stake over his heart. I didn't say that. He raises his arms helplessly. Lord Wolfgang, you have to trust me. I have every reason not to trust you. The day I killed his mother comes rushing back, when I fastened her to the posts in the town square. I vividly recall the villages around me chanting, Vampire! The devil's offspring! Kill the vampire! They said. Kill her! And there stood Joachim, just a teenage boy, watching his mother cry tears of blood as broken bottles struck her naked body. I warned him what terror he would behold, but he insisted he wanted to see the work of the famous Wolfgang, even if it was his own mother who was going to die. I should have known what would happen, should have listened to Bronin. I was bestowing charity at the time, and now I see what charity has brought me. Joachim's desire for revenge has stayed with him all this time. How long he has waited. So many years. I feel cold hands touch my elbow and shudder from Joachim's touch. Whatever it is you're thinking, it isn't so. Joachim's loose, wiry hair falls across his face. For a moment, I remember him huddled over his dying mother, him kissing her cheek and whispering to her he would exact retribution for her one day, do all that he could. How similar I was, leaning over my Diana, watching her body burn away. It all makes sense. Someone he loved for someone I loved. Anger wells inside me like a great furnace. I turn to face him, squeezing the stake tightly in my hands. All empathy seems to have left Joachim's face. I loved her too, he says, in a solemn tone, more than you know. I frown at Joachim's words. They are distant to me. There is no way of knowing what is real or not. He loved my Diana? His attempt at sympathy may be a ploy. He may be reading my thoughts. Vampires are notorious for such things. What do you know of love, Joachim? I say, shaking my head. I move away from him, looking over my shoulder. Do you know your way through these caverns? Only some, Joachim says. That will do. You are going to help me find Dorian. But I do not know where the Carnal Risi have taken him. I know. That's why you're going to take me to the place where you last saw him.